Long ago, in the heart of the eastern Chinese mountains, there ruled an emperor whose will was law and whose pride was legend. He could command rivers to change their course, armies to march, and cities to rise where there had once been forests. And for many years the heavens seemed to agree with him. Rain fell when he wanted crops, and winds calmed when he wished to sail. He believed that power was not just a gift, it was proof that the world listened. Then one summer, the rain stopped. The air grew dry and brittle. The rice fields cracked. The rivers turned into dust-filled beds. The peasants prayed, but the emperor did not. He stood upon the steps of his marble palace and declared, "The sky belongs to my empire. If I command it, it will rain." He gathered his wisest astrologers, his cleverest engineers, and ordered them to bring the sky back to obedience. Incense filled the air, drums thundered through the nights, yet the clouds did not return, and so the first seed of doubt was planted deep in the emperor's heart. But instead of humility, it grew into rage. The emperor ordered a war, not against nations, but against the sky itself. He built towers of smoke to teach the clouds to form. He demanded rain ceremonies that lasted days, until the people collapsed from exhaustion. When his advisors gently said, "Your Majesty, perhaps heaven must move at its own pace," he dismissed them. Heaven obeys those who act, not those who wait. He sent soldiers to every corner of the realm, forcing farmers to dig wells through stone. He ordered children to carry buckets to fill dry ponds, and every morning he climbed his tower, gazed upon the empty horizon, and shouted into the wind, "Obey me. I am your ruler. Bring back the rain." But the sky did not listen. The empire below began to crack. Hunger crept through villages. The strong became silent. The weak grew hopeless. Even the emperor's golden armor felt heavier with each sunrise. Inside his tower, surrounded by instruments and scrolls, he began to feel what he feared most: helplessness. One morning, when the emperor descended from his tower, he found a lone monk waiting at the palace gates. The man was old, his robe torn by travel and his feet bare. He carried nothing but a small wooden bowl, half filled with water. The guards laughed. "He comes to beg." But the emperor, desperate for distraction, said, "Let him in." The monk bowed and held up the bowl. "This," he said, "is your kingdom. Once full, now drying. You shake it, spill it, and still ask why it empties." The emperor frowned. "Are you mocking me, old man?" "No," said the monk. "I am reminding you, the sky is not your servant, as this water is not your slave. You can only hold it gently, or lose it forever." The emperor clenched his fists. "My people are starving. You tell me to do nothing?" The monk smiled softly. "When you grip water, it slips through your hand, but when you open your palm, it rests within it." Then he poured the water into the dry earth at the emperor's feet and walked away without another word. The emperor watched the ground absorb the last drop. For the first time in his reign, he could not command meaning from silence. That night, the emperor could not sleep. His mind was loud, filled with the clang of orders, the echo of his own voice, and the whisper of the monk's words. You mistake control for care. At dawn, he removed his crown and robes. He dressed like a farmer and walked beyond the palace walls for the first time in years. The land was barren. Children were too tired to play. Old men sat in silence beside empty wells. The people did not recognize him, only another weary man with calloused hands. He worked beside them, tilling the earth, planting seeds, praying not with words, but with effort. Days passed. He learned the sound of hunger, the weight of patience, the quiet rhythm of waiting for what cannot be forced. Then, one evening, as he lifted a handful of soil, he felt something cold on his skin. A drop, then another, and then rain. The people cried out in joy. Laughter filled the fields. Children danced barefoot in the mud. And the emperor, soaked, smiling, trembling, fell to his knees and whispered, "It was never mine to control, only mine to serve." The drought ended. The rivers returned, but something else changed. Something greater than the weather, the emperor himself. He ruled with gentleness now. He built canals instead of towers, granaries instead of monuments. He listened before speaking. And though the monk never returned, the emperor kept a small bowl of water beside his throne. All was half full. When his generals boasted, he would glance at the bowl and ask, "If I try to hold the rain, what will happen?" And they would fall silent. Under his rule, the kingdom flourished, not because he mastered the heavens, but because he had learned to bow before them. Centuries have washed away his empire, but the lesson remains, because the emperor's tower still exists today, built not from stone but from our screens, our schedules, our constant need to control. We track our steps, our calories, our moods. We monitor our performance, our sleep, our productivity. We chase the illusion that if we plan enough, worry enough, try enough, life will finally obey. We rage when it doesn't, when people change, when outcomes shift, when the rain refuses to come on our schedule, and, just like that emperor, we exhaust ourselves trying to make the sky listen, when maybe it's trying to teach us to listen instead. True strength isn't in control. It's in rhythm. It's in trust. Sometimes the project fails. The person leaves. The storm comes early, and no matter what we do, the rain won't obey. But when we stop shouting, when we stop clutching the bowl, the sky finally breathes, and maybe, just maybe, the rain falls again. Not when we demand it, but when we're finally quiet enough to receive it. Let it rain when it must.